Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome back to the daily forecast for Thursday, April 4th, 2024. Happy Jupiter's Day to you. It is the Aries season. We are in the Celtic tree month of Alder. We're Mercury retrograding in Aries, and of course, we have a waning moon. So, our astrology for today, the sun is in Aries, cardinal fire, representing courage. Moon is in fourth quarter Aquarius, fixed air, stubbornness. Mercury is retrograding Aries, cardinal fire, representing fiery tempers. Venus is in Pisces, mutable water, representing compassion. Mars is in Pisces, a mutable water sign, representing curiosity. Jupiter is in Taurus, fixed earth sign, representing practicality. Saturn is in Pisces, a mutable water sign, representing nostalgia. Uranus is in Taurus, a fixed earth sign, representing renovation. Neptune is in Pisces, mutable water sign, representing imagination. Pluto is in Aquarius, fixed air sign, representing reformation. And of course, what is our mantra for the Mercury retrograde? Rethink, revise, redo. Just keep that in mind, we'll be better off. Now, because it is the waning crescent moon, think rest, reflect, and purge. So get rid of stuff that you don't need, including thoughts inside of your head that aren't particularly helpful. Get rid of it, purge it. It's the Aquarius moon, so your watchwords are do socialize, do engage in group projects, do pursue wisdom. But for your don'ts, don't get too personal. Don't deal with dull people if you don't have to, and don't get lost in your own idealism. Sometimes we have to focus on what is, not what we would prefer. So, on this day of Jupiter, with Jupiter in Taurus, it is continuing to plod away at the tasks in pursuit of greater goals. Difficulties will ensue when not a Mercury retrograde creates communication difficulties. So, double check to make sure that everyone is on the same page before proceeding, especially if you are engaged in a group project. A little bit of forethought will spare you a great deal of anguish. Now, today's tarot card is the Ace of Stones, the foundation of life. We'll need to cultivate visualization skills, organization, take a more practical approach. And the challenge for us, as represented by this card, is to get up from the drawing board and from all of our brainstorming and spring into action. It's one thing to dream something up, it's another to actually bring it into fruition and into the waking world. So it is that emphasis on the doing, on the creating, on having something to show for our work. That is where this card is taking us today. So if that's the kick in the pants you needed to make progress on some of your projects, well, then I am very happy to help. Today's Celtic Triad reads 3 things odious in a person: ignorance, bad deeds, and perversity. Now, before we proceed, may I just say I adore the word odious. It is an excellent word. We need to bring it back into common usage. But let's go about ignorance. Willful ignorance is a real problem in our society, and it is so irritating because you just cannot reason with people who genuinely do not want to know. And then we also have the ignorance that is in some people that believe themselves to be knowledgeable, but really they know nothing at all. Extremely irritating. We encounter people like this all of the time. It grates the nerves. And then bad deeds that are willful and deliberate or come by through omission and neglect. There's all sorts of ways to exhibit bad conduct, to do things that just are not to the benefit of anyone, let alone things that are actively malevolent. Um, and people who do this and who do this on purpose, we should take that as a reflection of their genuine character. We shouldn't make excuses for it. We shouldn't, especially if they happen to be on our side, whether we're thinking about politically or religiously or in some sort of social cause. Don't ignore these things because these people are creating uh, bad outcomes, and we don't want their karma in our circle. So we should call these things out when we see them. And then perversity. Perversity in the sense of being contrary without purpose, being unreasonable, just creating a problem in conversation or in projects or in anything just because you feel like it, not because you have any real objections and not because you have a better idea and not because you feel like, oh, if we do this, it will be absolutely disastrous. So I must prevent the thing from happening. This is something different. This is just pointless difficulties that are made on purpose. And yes, that is an odious thing. So today's magical intention is grief in the sense of easing grief and recovering from grief. The color for this is crimson, the plant is the marigold, the animal is the bat, and the crystal is the ruby. So the question is, are you willing to recover from wounds? Now, that might seem like a ridiculous question because if someone is hurting, of course they want to feel better. But we have a whole philosophy very active and pervasive in our society that gives people social standing if they suffer. We see people, especially on social media, who go so far as to not just exhibit symptoms of various mental health issues, but to actually take those on, to make themselves ill, or at least purport themselves to be ill because it raises their stock. And you have a lot of people who will say, oh, yes, this will help you cope and this will help you make you feel better, when all that it does is reinforce behaviors that that make difficulties endure, that worsen them over time. And it's all under the guise of let's just make things easier on yourself. True healing sometimes is painful. It sometimes requires a great deal of hard work, and it definitely requires patience and consistent efforts. So our challenge is to do the healthy thing and endure what must be endured instead of just letting it fester. Letting it fester is the easiest thing in the world. So, for today's daily practices, you might tidy up around the house and burn some dragon's blood incense just to clear the air a little bit. Weed your flower bed if you have one, or your vegetable garden, or whatever you have. You could consider making an herbal sachet and then dunking it in the bath water and just having a good, relaxing soak. Make offerings to an animal spirit that you've worked with before or that you would seek to work with, and meditate before bed. Then for today's Fae, we have the leprechaun. And the journal prompt I'd like you to consider is if a leprechaun were to lead you to a figurative pot of gold, what kind of gold would you hope that it would contain? Would you want actual literal gold? Do you want the gold of knowledge? Do you want the gold of wisdom? What kind of gold are you really after? What actually constitutes riches and wealth to you? See, and I believe that is what we have for you today. Come back again next day for another edition of the Daily Forecast. In the meantime, share your thoughts about this one in the comment section below, or send me an email at brigantiablackbird at protonmail.com and I'll answer you there. But that'll do it for today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.